All right, it's running.
All right, so we thank you very much, team, for participating in the learning walkthrough. You guys are just absolutely amazing, and having your expertise here is extremely helpful for the work that we're doing and for our faculty, right? And so we were able to conduct these learning walkthroughs with Stacy, our partner from the curriculum department, and we visited a variety of classrooms, about 11 classrooms, and I just wanted to say that what we saw in the classrooms, we've been talking about best practices for the longest time, and looking at what we witnessed on Monday, and what we talked about months ago, what we saw months ago and a year ago, it's just night and day. It's just night and day. People are embedding best practices into everything that they do. They take feedback from us. The teachers take feedback from us, don't you agree? And they just implement, everyone is doing everything with fidelity, and we're just so proud to see the huge differences in the growth.
The huge growth,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yes. Classroom teacher, what are your thoughts quickly?
Just extreme growth from a few months ago, a year ago in planning. We're focusing on planning for this time, but in regards to planning within the 11 classrooms, it was evident that there's been extreme growth.
Yes, so just to go back, we were able to see 11 classrooms and we were able to create some data. It's all random, right? It doesn't, how we put them out. But let's review just the 3 things that we were looking for, because we had an opportunity in each teacher team and with the specialist to review these 3 components. So instruction demonstrates that teacher intentionally planned to include tasks and materials aligned to the appropriate grade level standard, which is part of domain 2A. The learning objective is aligned to the grade level standard, and the learning objective is shared with students throughout the lesson and is posted, which is comes from domain 3A. So let's take a look at the first one, and going back to looking at just the instruction that demonstrates teachers had intentionally planned.
And just unpack that, let's unpack that. What does that mean? Instruction demonstrates that the teacher has intentionally planned to include text, tasks, and materials. And so teachers are not just walking into the classrooms cold and just starting to teach.
Right.
So this is a part of our backwards design, right? This is Candace and in the beginning of the year, and again working with backwards design, looking at our unit plans and unpacking them before we go into the classroom and just say, here I am for the day.
Right, yes. And I think the unit plans, especially this year, the way they've been revised, it's very clear cut of in unit 1, everyone's in unit 1, for example, what standards should be being addressed daily. So it's not just, there's a lot of standards within every grade level, but in this first unit, every grade level has their standards laid out for them of which should be addressed.
So there's no more guessing. There's no more guessing like we used to have to go and dig for this stuff ourselves. Right. It's in the unit plans, and that
just
helps
the
a lot.
teachers to focus a little more laser focus on what is their priority. Laser focus,
I love that word.
And I think where you find this evidence is from your lesson plan, your lesson, this is where you would find, if you can see, if the tasks are aligned, they should be listed in that plan. The material that you're using, that's all there. So I think that this goes to some of the components, and when we were in the classrooms, we saw very positive. 9 out of 11 classrooms had this for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But the classrooms that did not, I think they were missing some of the components in the lesson plan.
Do we know, for example, what was missing? Tasks were not completely aligned to what they were supposed to do. We're supposed to learn one thing, and yet kids are doing something else.
Right,
we
so
don't
you
need
can't
to
just take the standard, and it's one thing to put the standard there, but is it aligned? Or vice versa, do you have a great task that the kids are attacking, but where is the standard that you're addressing? Right. So that standard has to be very clear.
And specifically written out in the lesson plan.
Right.
Right, so if the lesson plans for us are for us. It's not for an I gotcha moment or Jen's walking in, where's your lesson plan? This is something that should be done daily just as best practice. If you aren't in one day or have to leave for an emergency, someone should be able to walk into your room and pick up where you left off just by reading your plan and know exactly where to go next.
Right, and I believe, Mr. T, this was an email that you had sent out, right, a couple years ago with certain components that were really crucial to our lesson plan.
Oh,
Does this look
yes.
familiar to you, Mr. T?
No? Okay, yes. I remember this, yes. This was,
This was 2
2
years ago.
almost to the date.
Almost 2 years ago. Yeah.
And I said, below is an email from central office regarding lesson planning, because we started talking about lesson planning way back when. And I said that as I review these components, to me, they make a lot of sense. The purpose is to establish an understanding of what you are going to teach children. Additionally, they will serve as a more precise guide on having our assistants help groups in our rooms. Again, it's all about specificity, right? I'm sure we all do not possess the training in writing such detailed plans. And so just putting it out there, we don't have all the skill set, but this will take us some time to adopt and utilize for our instruction. And let's carefully work our way to include these components. If you believe you have something better that you've been using, please share it with Jen and myself. This is not a Norwalk thing, but an exercise in professionalism and best practices. And we will definitely talk about this more. And so again, when I said that this is not a Norwalk thing, gone are the days of it's a Norwalk thing or it's a dictate, it's a mandate from central office, them, us. No, this is what's best for all our kids. This is best practice, adopting these best practices. So in a lesson plan, if we're looking at lesson plans and the lesson plan just says main idea, that is not a lesson plan. Those are just 2 words, right? But if you're looking to teach children about main idea, then you need to look at those standards. Can you take a look at the tab? Yes. And so everyone has a copy of the standards. And so basically this should be the Bible for everyone, no?
Absolutely. And in your email, you said, this isn't something that's going to happen right away, but you said that it's, something that we can work on. And that was 2 years ago. So by now, the expectation is
that you have the standard, our standards that we use for Common Core, right? A standard-based lesson objective, your lesson development, including the purpose and kind of the tasks that Katie, you were talking about that tasks, what tasks are based on that standard. And then we really have done a really nice job of adding scaffold and differentiation, but those should kind of be noted in your plans. And how are you assessing them? What's the task that you're doing?
How are
and
you
what's
gonna
the
know
end
you achieved
goal?
your goal?
And if there's any extensions, right, that you could have, or your lesson plan could extend over a couple days. You're not always going to finish it in one day. So.
And the other thing too is now looking at this particular school, which is why Anthony's here, and something that we all agreed upon that we should have in our lesson plans is evidence of multiple intelligences, because that's a part of our framework.
Right.
And that was one of the whole school goals last year.
Yes.
And so that's continuing this year. Evidence of multiple intelligences were in every single lesson that we saw. Sometimes it wasn't notated in the plans. So but working towards finding a standardized way that we could find that within the plans would be important. So having common language or abbreviations of each intelligence that's easy for the teachers and administration to both see.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
I know in kindergarten we just literally use a little logo. So if it's bodily kinesthetic, we have just images that we put in there, and then we'll write we're creating letter M with our body today, whatever it might be. But for us, it's visual, and it helps with our lesson plan. So I'd be happy to share that.
And I had seen a lesson plan with an actual whole little tab with all of the intelligences where you could just circle it.
Oh, that's great. That's
So
super
I think
quick.
when we have been talking about how to share out ideas, that's gonna be pivotal for teachers to say, oh, this is what you do, I love this, can you share a copy? But this makes it so much easier for me, let me show you how I did this. because I think you always say the best learning practices are right next door. So teachers have the opportunity to share how they frame their lesson plans and putting the standard in the multiple intelligences and areas for integration. They share that with each other. That's gonna make this easier to tackle.
It leads into differentiation, because if we're talking about differentiating lessons, way you can do that is looking at the various intelligences. And so this lesson, I'm going to put components of visual intelligence or spatial intelligence. And so when we're talking about, oh my goodness, what is differentiation? How much more can I differentiate? Yes, you can differentiate looking at through the lens of the multiple intelligences.
Oh, great. We have 2 more to talk about. So we I know we have. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about, because this leads perfectly into the learning objective is aligned to the grade level standard. Well, we saw it about 9 out of 11 classrooms. It's not that they didn't have the learning objective, but it didn't necessarily align to what they're in their lesson plan. So again, how important is just to be cognizant of what the objective, what the standard is, and then making sure that your learning objective is aligned to that. So
and having the standard in your lesson plan.
That's right. So, and then if we go on to the last one, we had this was amazing. Everybody had a learning objective up there that was shared with students, and that was posted. However, we had some little Y's and some big Y's. And what was the difference?
So the uppercase Y was shared with the students and posted. The lowercase y was maybe it wasn't shared or shared throughout the lesson, and I think that's something that we really need to move to. Is I think Lisa was talking about this in kindergarten. You get used to repeating, but if you share if you're sharing the objective only once and you're not continually reminding kids, what are we doing? If they're at the bathroom, they may have missed it, or they're just coming in from somewhere else. So it's important to keep circling back to that and sharing it throughout.
So we're saying even if it's there, that's fine, it's there, but bring it to life.
Right, exactly.
Bring it to life.
And when we're talking about when we come in and ask kids, like, what are you doing? Like, they need to be able, like, it's not just something that, like, I'm going through the motions. I shared it, I told them, but do they understand? And are they able to articulate what the objective is?
And why we're doing it too.
Right. Why we're doing it.
And it's just
They
like
need
learning,
to find their purpose.
like vocabulary, right? How many times do you have to hear a vocabulary word in order to retain it and master it?
Yes.
It's the same thing. If you're working on equal groups, blah, 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 then the vocabulary that you're using in the classroom, we heard in some of the rooms, we're using different language.
Right.
So if it's specifically equal groups, then you have to say equal groups throughout the entire lesson. Or main idea. If you're working on main idea, saying main idea, not what's the gist of what they said, or
And so the learning objective that's shared with them should also be in a language that is accessible to all the students as well, right?
which it was, right?
So
Yeah.
it was.
So I
Mr.
think
T,
next
can you
steps?
just talk about next steps? And if you don't,
Yes.
mind, I just have to excuse myself.
Yes, okay, yeah.
So sorry.
So the next steps, as I always say, the best professional development is always happening next door. And
We don't want to reinvent the wheel.
we're not looking to reinvent the wheel. I have my way of doing my lesson plans, you have your way of doing lesson plans, but we can always permanently borrow ideas from one another. So the expectation is going to be that 100% of the faculty by the end of, let's see, how many more faculty meetings do we have? Let's see, today is okay, we're off on Monday. So we have the second. Okay, so we have 2 faculty meetings in October. By mid-October, I think it's reasonable, by mid-October, everyone would have had the opportunity to share lesson plans with one another.
Maybe a staff meeting?
The staff meeting, that's
Could we dedicate a staff
because
meeting
time is of the
to,
essence since coverage is hard, but so a staff meeting, right?
You'll
Yeah.
also have your colleagues right there
right,
to talk to, which we don't always have the opportunity to seek each other out during the day, because our prep time is different. So if everybody is there together, it's a great way to be able to bounce ideas off each other and share in person.
So,
And going
who's
next
taking
door,
notes?
right? I am.
okay, so can you please, Lisa, put, that at the staff meeting, every faculty member,
Yeah,
so if Anthony is my partner, I am going to read what I shared from Anthony's lesson plan.
okay,
At least one thing from Anthony's lesson plan that
okay,
I might want to embed in my lesson plan.
okay,
And so everyone will have to share something from another colleague,
okay.
and not
From
just
their
from this activity.
team partner, from their grade level partner, or anyone?
I think from anyone.
From
I think
anyone, great.
anyone,
Yeah.
from
Perfect.
anyone. And so that's the first piece. And then afterwards, this work is all connected, and the school improvement, it goes back to the school improvement plan, because, our greatest area of leverage is standards-based instruction and planning. Because if you don't plan, then you can't teach. If you can't teach, you can't assess. If you can't assess, then you can't create small groups. So you can't do any of that if your plans are not specific and clear. Does it take time? Yes, it is. Yes, it does. But this is, again, about the survival of our profession and professionalism. So
Right.
this is
And the
a must.
success of our kids. So we're talking
Yes.
about these kids that we want to continue to elevate, and the kids that we really need to focus on, as far as their scores, not just their scores, but their education in general. So we have to think about what are we doing for these kids?
Yes.
As a way to model this, especially with the learning objective, is it possible for us to have our whole school goal be posted in the school somewhere where everybody could see?
I like that idea. So we'll blow it up with our postmaker and put it up there, and we have to constantly refer to it also. And when we have our data teams, we have to refer to it. With our ILT, we have to refer to it, because it is rooted in something. It is where all best practice will come from. Right? Excellent idea.
Right.
So by next week, we'll get Amir to take care of that. We just have to find Amir, and to make sure that he gets that done.
Amir to the rescue.
Amir to the rescue, yes. Yes.
All right.
Is there anything else? And so how we're going to communicate this with the staff. We're going to,
Why don't we should have taken a video of this and sent it to them.
Geez, I wish we had done that. Okay. Okay.
Next time.
Next time.
Yeah.
Next time, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then afterwards, at data team times, can we carve out 2 minutes or a few minutes in our data team times to talk about plans, to
Absolutely.
review plans?
I think that it should be, given how important this is and the complexity of it, that maybe in all data team meetings, we can dedicate maybe more than 2 minutes.
Yes.
But just to be looking at plans and constantly talking about it and fleshing it out and seeing where we are with this, because this is a work in practice.
And I've been approached several times with people asking for help with arts integration, multiple intelligences, and I can make myself available more.
The book right there.
So in our follow-up, communicate this to the staff,
Yes.
dedicate time in teacher team meetings, faculty meeting that focuses on lesson planning, and making Anthony available, or Anthony is available for help with the arts integration.
And this book, this is the Bible. And Lisa Donovan, I've seen her speak at a high school's convention. And so we're getting her to come here to speak with our staff. And so we're including her in the conversation on planning and integrating the arts into the planning. Because again, this is our school, this is what we do. And so to have the preeminent authority on this kind of work, having her come here to this building is
That's
just.
in November?
That is,
November 6th.
November
Okay.
6th.
We'll have to
Yes.
make sure that staff mark their calendar and don't plan doctor's appointments that day.
Yes, that Monday, yes, everyone is expected to be here because it's such an important, meeting. She's only available on
Mondays.
Mondays.
And Fridays.
Yes, and this is not the kind of work that we can do in 1 hour, so it's going to be a 2-hour staff meeting on
November
November
6th.
6th, 2-hour staff meeting on November 6th, yes. And so I'll, let the faculty know so that they can start planning, because again, Lisa Donovan is no joke, and so,
I'm making a sticky
Perfect.
note to put on your computer so you remind them.
yes, thank you.
All right,
All right,
work,
great,
team.
good work,
Awesome.
awesome,
Thank you, guys.
thank you.
I can stop recording?
Yes, it
All
is.
right.